Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Tuesday the 27th of June. So let's get on and look at the potential impact news that could affect the markets today. So we're sitting here, let's get the right week, be good. So we're sitting here on Tuesday. So we've got the Canadian data out later, the inflation data coming out. It's still sitting there pretty high, so I think there could be quite a bit of volatility kicking around this. Aside of that, then we've got core durable goods US. That doesn't really do too much to the markets there. It's toned down there. It's been a bit damp lately. It's not done much. New home sales might have a bigger bearing on what we've seen before, so just be wary around 3 o'clock. Consumer confidence there, new home sales is 3 reports coming out at 3 p.m. Just be wary. Right, let's get on and look at the technicals, starting off with the euro dollar. Looking from daily perspective. Well, we didn't see a continuation to the downside in the end yesterday. I was sitting there patiently waiting at one stage, and it wasn't to be. It did ironically come off later, but yeah, it was just moseying along yesterday. It didn't come off that much actually, just looking, but yeah, I was waiting for the breakdown actually on this, and just as I say, never happened. Kept me out of the trade, and it just carried on pushing. So what I was looking at here. That's it. I was looking at yesterday. So looking at yesterday there, I was just waiting for the next bar to trigger beyond, and it never happened. It would have been a nice move if it had, but it didn't. So I wasn't in it. As it stands today, the pivots are really pinched. The price action has been pretty minimal yesterday, and we've got these really pinched pivots, so they don't give us a lot of guidance. Maybe the R3, if it pushes up further, might give us a bit of resistance, but they are quite so tight. Had a move up here. It's not back above its weekly pivot quite yet, and that could, if it does, that would give it a chance of a push up maybe to its weekly R1. Even the weekly pivots are pinched here. But got the higher lows coming through. A break of yesterday's high may be an opportunity. Now, I don't normally look for R2s or anything like this, but I'm sort of looking across here at the previous highs where it's found resistance just above the R2 there. The pivots themselves are still pinched, so got to just use a bit of common sense on days like this. These are the days that you get the funny results from them. Okay. The 20% days. Right, dollar yen, well, couldn't be much tighter and compact and consolidated. Where it's sitting here, not really moving too much. There's nothing to be done. It could, I say nothing to be done. There is a wedge formed on it. Once again, we see these a bit. Let's just draw that on here. Now, looks like it's broken the top there. Well, that's okay. Let's pop this on across here, right? So there's the wedge. Now it has broken the highs of that trend line there, but it's pulled back in. Now, if it breaks back above that, that could be a continuation pattern to the upside there. Distance roughly the size of the inner workings of this wedge. I wouldn't use the outside. I'd use the center as a bit more of a conservative target, but that certainly has some scope. Okay, Aussie US dollar. Weird one here. Aussie US dollar. It's well, not quite support into its 200 or anything here, but anyway, found a bit of support there somewhere. Not too sure what it was off. It was last week's S2, but as it sits at the moment, up wherever it was, it's found support. I was waiting for it to roll over. To be fair, I thought any hour now it will roll over, and it didn't. set my alerts off, but never set a trigger or triggered any trades. For now, though, it's seen a solid movement there at 2 o'clock, and it's pushed on upwards, consolidating around the highs here. Maybe it's bottomed. I don't like to call these things too quickly. It's interesting. It's really pinched pivots there, and it's sitting right into its R3 there. Maybe a break above that area. Be a bit more positive. Not seeing a lot of volume in these markets. Canadian dollar just continues to strengthen against the US. It's pushing down there nicely. Unfortunately, I'm not currently in the Canadian US. It is, as I say, it's continued pushing. There was this very ugly head and shouldery pattern, or we'll just look at the wave formation, the 1, 2, 3 here. Very messy. It has broken all that, and well, I mean, it's in a downward trend. That's all I can say. Is there's not really anything to be traded on that for me at the moment, because it needs to retrace a reasonable amount to get into it. New Zealand dollar's seen a bit of a lift up here. The central bank suggesting it's now going to target the rate between 1 and 3%, the inflation rate. That's their sort of key target, instead of the 2%, which was always the main line. I think most central banks will follow suit on that. In fact, it was New Zealand's central bank that started all this in terms of targets of inflation, and they've adjusted it. It'll be interesting to see how many others will adjust it between 1 and 3 if they haven't already. So where we're looking at New Zealand dollar at the moment, there is a scope of in the short term. There's a bit of a flag going on there. We could see a break up there. It has, well, it's quite solidly through the Asian session pushed up there. It's broken its highs that it was running into yesterday. Maybe it has got more upside potential. Okay, that's in New Zealand. Euro yen. Oh, well, it's just continuing to push up. It's certainly not one to be on the short side of things. Not a lot to say on this. It's not giving us a retrace to buy into. It's risky. We could play a breakout at some stage. It's got double tops in here, but it's struggling as I'm looking at it at the moment. The yen just strengthening that little bit more, and the euro really not going anywhere, if anything softening. So that said, we could get a breakout later. It hasn't hit its the pivot here on the dailies, so an R2 could be a possibility if it breaks above the highs here. I'll look at the order book on that at some stage. Right, okay, other markets, EURCAD I was looking for previously, but on the short side, I'm just going to look at the time frames here. Yesterday it did start moving off. It moved off very, very quickly into the 8 o'clock. Within a few minutes it had pulled on this bar here. I sat there and waited for it to break beyond that, with the idea of holding a position for longer. It just never happened. So again, patience paid off, and we're sitting here now in a consolidated phase. Again, we might see a reversal on this, but it's not looking overly pretty at the moment. But it has got a little near-term triple bottom on the hourlies here. Could see it roll backwards. Pound CAD, it's making some inroads again. The pound, it's not quite into its daily pivot there, but lower highs, lower lows still in the main picture, so you don't be jumping in this too quick. It's got to show a structural change before I look to get into that. Pound yen, for those that are trading the pound yen, still pushing up there, but slower, and it's just, as I said, the yen's just catching a bit of the bid at the moment, and it's affecting these pairs. But that's double top there as well, pretty much. So no, another double top. Oh, there it goes, it's breaking. The pound's having a bit of a push. Okay, keying through other pairs. Aussie New Zealand, this is this is continuing to the downside now. This could be a bit of a continuation for the rest of the day here. We'll just see if it breaks below that daily pivot. It's a possibility. It's been in a lovely downward trend. It's had a decent retrace. It's come back up the time frames a little bit here. There we go. It's had a decent retrace. Got some scope to sell off further. Just looking at yesterday's pivot. I put the alert there for hoping that it'd come up there for a sell-off, but it didn't. As I say, it might break beyond the pivot here at this stage. New Zealand dollar CAD keep on showing this, but this looks like it could be over. This downward movement. We've got a quadruple bottom effectively sitting there. It's taken quite a bit of a bounce. The market seems to like this 1 to 3% target, and New Zealand as a set. And well, at the moment looking a bit more positive. We'll see how it moves. Canadian dollar still moving strong against the US dollar, but the New Zealand dollar really setting away a little bit this morning. Right, okay, so not a great deal set up there, but some opportunities. Switching markets and a quick look across at gold first. You just got the higher time frames on gold. It's not really doing too much, full stop. There we go. That was gold. It's got a little bit of a pitch on it. Oil, Western Texas. We're moving into driving season, and driving season normally puts more pressure on. We've also got the sort of comments in terms of instability within Russia at the moment, yet we're not seeing too much happen here. It has moved up through the Asian session there. Well, I say through the late US session, it pushed up there, struggling a little bit at the moment. It might we might see a break of these highs at some point and a push up towards those the upper side of this range. There's lots of ifs and buts there at the moment. You've got to remember Saudi's cut their oil production, and as I say, the concerns a little bit of Russia, but I don't think that's going to come through too much personally, but we'll see. Anyway, indices, CSI 300 catching a little bounce here. I'm still pretty bearish on this. It's just really filling that gap by the looks of things, or nearly filled the gap there, so can't really be too bullish on this at this stage. The Nikkei, well, this might be its bouncing area. We'll see. We'll really need to look tomorrow at where it is at the moment. It's coming just short of its 50 MA, for example, but it might be bouncing from there. It's got an untouched weekly pivot above there. It's got some scope for that. Let's just come back out and look at it from here. Overall, sorry, that's a 4-hourly picture I'm looking at. Overall, still looking pretty positive there. Nifty 50 still very much in a bullish zone. Aussie dollar, Aussie 200 even that's caught a little bounce. A small through the Asian session there, caught a little bounce, but not as little as being the operative word, not really going anywhere. S&Ps. Yesterday, just yet another down day. Still, it's still in a sort of flag mode at the moment. Particularly if you come down and you see the flag's getting the length of this flag's getting relatively long relative to the last retrace up there. Though it's probably retraced more than 50% now. It looks like 61.8% roughly. So it's had a bigger retrace. The Dow catching a bounce there as well, slightly yesterday, and following through this morning. Still very wary of these markets, these US markets. I don't think with a recession looming that they will be quite so strong, although sentiment from the big money is still quite bullish on these equity markets, particularly S&Ps. Okay, bull flag territory on the Nasdaq there. Yesterday still managed to sell off, even though it's the strongest market. DAX this morning, well, range bound, not a lot going on there. And FTSE FTSE. I was just checking. I've got a daily picture here, but looking quite bearish overall. But at the moment, catching the bid as well. But these could all turn around so quickly by looks of things. This still, to me, is in a bearish near-term mode. So there we go. That's pretty much it for today. I wish you a great day's trading, and I'll catch you in the morning. Bye for now.